taking inventory of the rocks and minerals in the north. Also, the lab that analyzes that inventory. And gold. We'll look at Saskatchewan's newest mine at Star Lake. And in the south of the province, another mine, this one producing sodium sulfate. As well, another resource, gravel. It's not very glamorous, but it's an important commodity. We'll also take an artistic look at making steel. These stories on A Fine Science with Holly Preston.
If you spend any time in the wilderness of northern Saskatchewan, you might run across some people walking around in the strangest places. They're not out on a hike. They're making a detailed survey and maps of the rocks and minerals.
We either start at a lake or from a road, and then we head overland by using a compass and keeping track of our distance by using a tally counter, which we call a pacer. This particular area that we're working in now, this is the third year of a project, and it's related to the gold exploration activity in this area, and that's why it was chosen. Visible gold is a rare item. Most of the gold deposits in this area of the Larange Belt are hosted in iron sulfides, and the gold is very finely dispersed within these iron sulfides. And there are a few deposits where you can actually see visible gold, and it's usually as pinhead size flakes. But on the whole, it's rare to see visible gold. So when you go to a gold deposit and you're expecting to see these veins and nuggets of gold, you're not going to see them. We're looking for more details on the volcanic and sedimentary stratigraphy in this particular area, looking at the various granitic rocks. There's quite a variety, and some of them are very important as far as gold mineralization. Like the major deposits are actually located in the granitic rocks as opposed to the other ones. I would say about 90% of the province has already been surveyed. What we're doing here is going back in and resurveying an area at much more detail to get a better idea of just what the geology really is. It takes a lot of skill and training to do this type of work. In our survey, we prefer people to have at least a master's degree in geology and preferably a PhD. We have both. I have a crew of 6 assistants. 2 of them help in the mapping. One of them is working on a master's, the other is a graduate in geology. And then we have 4 assistants that range from first-year geology to graduate, BSc in geology. We make notes on every outcrop that we stop and visit. We collect samples, not at every outcrop, otherwise we'd be extremely loaded down by the end of the day. But we might average between 10 and 20 samples a day. And then we get back to camp, and these samples are labeled with paint and numbered. And then some of them are cut for microscope work, and we call it thin sections. And some of them are sent for geochemical analyses. And some just end up in a reference collection, which is available for anybody to have a look at. On average, we would probably do about 5 or 6 kilometers of traversing a day. And it might range from a low of 4 up to as much as 9 or 10 kilometers, depending on whether we think we can get that much area done in a day. Like, we're trying to do detailed mapping here, so we don't want to be doing really long traverses every day, because we want the more information, the better. We're trying to update the previous maps, so we can't extend ourselves that much. Some of the bush is really nice. Some of it is where if you're working in an area that's been burnt by a forest fire, that can be really hard slogging through that. The bugs at times can be quite bad. If you get caught out in a rainstorm, you get soaked, and it's not very nice, but it's something we have to do.
information collected by geological surveys will eventually find its way into the Saskatchewan Precambrian Geological Lab in La Ronge. The lab operates under 4 main areas: recording mining claims, analyzing samples when requested, a library where people can do research on previous work on mineral properties, and a library of another kind. It's a collection of diamond drill cores taken from mineral explorations around the province.
We select mineralized cores, that is, cores that have some economic mineral potential in them. That is copper or gold or platinum, uranium. And we select cores basically in 2 ways. One, from existing mines, that is uranium mines. We have a very good collection of uranium cores from the different mines in the province. As this Saskatchewan is one of the principal area in Canada for uranium production, and certainly one of the principal areas in the world. So scientists and other exploration people look at our collection to study ores in the various deposits, and we have a collection order that can do that visually. We also have cores from other base metal properties, copper, zinc, and gold. But the second area is that we collect cores which drilled rock that was sub-economic at the time they were drilled. So we collect these cores in order to preserve them for reanalysis, perhaps for some other element. For instance, for example, there's a ultra-basic intrusive close to town here, which was first drilled for copper and nickel. And that core was reanalyzed last year for platinum group elements, which are now a hot element to look for. In Saskatchewan, we concentrate on collecting perhaps 1 or 2% of all cores drilled in a year, but try and maintain a high quality. In the laboratory here, we have a total of about 35,000 meters of unconcentrated core and about 18,000 meters of concentrated core in our library. It will prevent work that has been done being done again. For instance, if you've done one survey or drilled one hole in one position and been unsuccessful, there's no point in repeating exactly the same thing. And so it has a positive effect by preventing wasting money or expending money on unsuccessful programs that are repeatedly unsuccessful in the same way. Exploration is a cyclical thing. For instance, it depends on the price of elements. And at present, the exploration going on here is for gold. We have a gold boom here because the gold price is up. But 20 years ago, gold wasn't worth anything. There was no exploration for gold. It was all for copper and zinc. And uranium has been very successful over the last 15 years. What other elements may be important in the next 10? For instance, platinum group elements or rare earth elements may be more important in the next 10 than gold is now. It's impossible to say exactly.
Thundercat's Cat's Lair. Will Cat's Lair's electronic laser beam destroy the mutant vehicle?
Laser!
Direct laser hit. Cat's Lair's doors are blown open.
Back! Get him! Fire! Retreat!
Cat's Lair defeats the mutant vehicle.
Cat's Lair, complete with mutant vehicle. Figures sold separately, assembly required. Batteries not included. It's a grand toy.
Dairy Queen, the original you'll never forget, introduces another top-of-the-chart taste. New DQ beef nuggets. Tender, juicy nuggets of beef wrapped in a golden crisp batter. Perfect for dipping in smoky barbecue, creamy horseradish, tangy steak sauce, or hot mustard. Pick up new DQ beef nuggets, only at Dairy Queen. The original you never forget.
We treat you right. Remodel your kitchen and bathroom with Merit Cabinets and qualify for up to $1,500 in government grants. Now at Kozan's grand opening of their new Merit Cabinet showroom. Merit Cabinets feature solid oak face frame, solid wood drawer sides, cabinet interiors of acrylic vinyl overlay, adjustable shelves, and 3-year warranty. No other brand combines all the features of Merit. Come in now for a free estimate. Merit at Kozan Furniture World, 1170 Broad.
Sweet baby Jane, dear Aunt Lou, you've captured those precious moments with the special people in your life. Now Pro Spectrum Video Productions in Regina brings your memories back to life, using the latest in video technology. By transferring your family photos, slides, and home movies to tape, your memories will be preserved for future generations. Pro Spectrum Family Videos make thoughtful Christmas gifts. Call 352-2764 for a quote. You'll be surprised at how little it costs.
As we've seen, a lot of the exploration and research in northern Saskatchewan right now involves gold. The newest mine in the area is located about 140 kilometers north of La Ronge at Star Lake.
The gold occurs in a quartz vein structure and is associated with pyrite mineralization. Pyrite is a very good marker zone for our gold mineralization. Very, very rarely will you ever see gold in our particular ore body. It's very finely disseminated in the quartz and pyrite mineralization. All that glitters is not gold. The ore zone as we know it and as we've financed it is down to a depth of 360 feet below surface. There is, of course, potential for extending that to a greater depth, but at the present time, we're developing the mine on the basis of that known zone. The expected mine life is just under 3 years of the known ore zone. Our ore reserves are based on a ½ ounce per ton, and that's probably the size of a garden pea in every ton of rock. We are expecting to recover in the order of 80 to 90,000 ounces. Our ore reserve are based on 82,000 ounces, and we have no indication at this point in time that we won't do at least that much or better. It's a relatively small project, but it's the first gold mine in northern Saskatchewan. It'll employ only about 50 to 60 people, but it may be sort of the opening of the door for gold mining in Saskatchewan. A lot of activity in northern Saskatchewan now in exploration for gold. We feel we've got some other properties that hold pretty good potential. We have a neighbor that are very actively involved in drilling within 3 or 4 kilometers of ourselves. We've got a couple of programs within a few kilometers of here, so that we think that there's pretty good potential for ongoing gold mining in northern Saskatchewan.
Mining takes place all over the province, not just in the north. While minerals such as gold and uranium get a lot of public attention, there are others that are also important industries. One example is sodium sulfate. Ingebright Lake in central Saskatchewan covers about 700 acres of the salt. The deposit averages 20 feet in depth. It's a mineral bonanza left when salts dissolved in melting glacial water settled and evaporated in low areas.
Well, the dredge is floating out in the water. It's anchored at the back end with a spud that the whole unit pivots around, and there are swing cables on each side that pull the dredge from side to side. The cutting is done with a bucket wheel, which rotates and cuts the product out, and it's then pumped to the dewatering screens. The salt is saved, and the brine is just returned to the lake. Now, the dredge itself can cut 50 feet deep, cuts a swath about 180 feet wide, and can cut about 300 or 400 yards an hour at top operating efficiency. With the water levels where we're at, we can cut 50 feet, so we might be able to get more than 50 feet of salt out if we can drop the water levels somewhere down the road, but right now we're just looking at taking the top 50 feet maximum. We've got over a mile of pipeline. It's pumped to our dewatering plant, our clarification plant at the north end of the lake. And the screens in that plant are about 50, 60 feet above ground level. The slurry is pumped up there. We screen the solids out. The brine returns back to the lake, and the solids are either added directly into the process or they're stockpiled for future use. The solids are put into the dissolving tank where we add hot dilute brine and get a lot of agitation, and we dissolve the salt crystals out, and the rocks and mud and organic matter is screened out and put on a waste pile, and the remainder of the good brine is sent to the settling pools where we get further settling. The sodium sulfate and the other chemical impurities will all dissolve, and the things like the mud and the organics and the rock and that type of thing will not dissolve. They will just, the coarse stuff will be screened out and wasted, and the fine stuff that stays in suspension we send to the settling pools for further settling. You draw off the top of the settling pools, the brine off the top of the settling pools, and it would look at times just like drinking water, but it is a brine, and 85% of that brine would be sodium sulfate, and the rest of the chemicals in there would be other salts that we can't use. So we take that brine and run it through our crystallizer and add it into the system. And the system itself, we circulate about 15 to 20,000 gallons a minute of brine up onto a deck. This brine drops through holes in the deck in a curtain, or a curtain of brine, past the fans which cool it down, and into some vats. The solids that fall out are collected at the bottom of the vats and recovered with cyclones and centrifuges. These solids are the hydrous form of the salt, so they still have 57 or 58% water in, and they go downstream to the factory where the water is evaporated out. The salt is dissolved. We add heat to it to dissolve it, and forms a slurry again. Some anhydrous or dry form of the salt falls out, and the rest of the salt is tied up in the brine itself. So what we have to do is evaporate the water out of the brine to get the remainder of the salt. This anhydrous salt is recovered again with centrifuges. From the centrifuges, the salt cake, which it is called now a salt cake, is fed into the dryers, and it has about 7 or 8% moisture. And the dryer is operated about 300 to 350 degrees Fahrenheit and dry the salt cake down to 0% moisture. Dry anhydrous sodium sulfate will attract water, so you have to make sure you get all of the moisture out. If you get any moisture in it at all, it'll cake up and get as hard as cement. And what they're looking for is the whiteness of it. We have a special machine which sends some light down to it and measures how much reflects back, and that tells it has to meet a certain standard, and that tells whether it's good or not for the detergent industry. Most of the product from this plant is exported to the States. Some is used in Eastern Canada and across Canada for different things, but the majority of it is used in the States by the detergent industry.
There's another resource that's mined in Saskatchewan. This one not even as glamorous as sodium sulfate. It's aggregate, or sand and gravel. Glamorous or not, it's a very important commodity. The demand for aggregate continues to grow, most of it going to construction and road building. For good management, it's essential to know where the deposits are, how much there is, and the quality and characteristics of the aggregate.
We're mapping all the surface deposits that we see every day, walk over and deal with, drive over. We're mapping them to compile a series of maps for the province, eventually compiling a superficial map for the entire province. One of the major resources that we're dealing with in the surface deposits is aggregate supplies. And we have a fairly new but rapidly expanding project dealing with the aggregate supplies, sand and gravel deposits that are getting in shorter and short supply over the years.
Well, aggregate's probably one of the minerals that's been ignored. A lot of people see it everywhere, but they don't realize its importance. And in addition to that, the consumption of aggregate in Saskatchewan exceeds all other minerals combined. So it's an extremely important mineral. Now, the construction industry relies entirely on aggregates for concrete, for roads, for many other construction-related products. The location of the deposit is extremely important to its economic well-being. Fully 35–40% of the deposit's expense is eaten up by costs of transporting the material to and from the pit. When you add processing expenses on top of that, the location becomes even more important. That's the problem in trying to generate the interest in the material, is that everybody takes it for granted and they don't appreciate the value of the resource. Once we outline an area, we'll often go into it and sample it, take samples of the gravel, maybe 50 pounds each, and then analyze them to determine the grain size of the material. In addition, we'll sometimes do petrographic examinations to indicate the types of materials that are present in the deposit, because different minerals will have different effects on the final use of that product. We have used electromagnetic geophysical surveys to help outline the deposit. It's an instrument which measures the conductivity of the ground, and each different type of material has a different conductive signature. So we're able to use this equipment to tell us where the gravel-bearing areas are. We need to know exactly where the material is so that we can use this material efficiently and wisely. People take for granted that sand and gravel is always going to be there and close at hand and readily available, and that's just not always the case. It's going to require some management, which is going to need information on where the resource is and how it can be used most effectively.
Hi, I'm Stu Jeffries, and here we go again. It's the 4th annual Stu Cruise, departing from your home city February 12th. Cruise the beautiful Mexican Riviera on the luxurious Tropical. Our week-long party at sea includes all meals on board, entertainment, casino, deck sports, and much, much more. Enjoy the sights or do a little shopping in port. For reservations, contact the Intra Travel Agency in your area. Come alone or bring the whole crowd, but don't let us sail without you.
Every day, someone has an accident or an unexpected illness. Are you prepared to meet the additional health costs of road and air ambulance service, preferred ward care, private duty nursing, in-hospital drugs, out-of-Canada and out-of-province emergency medical coverage, or other health benefits not presently covered? Protect your family with group medical services.
When you bring your family and friends to the Hotspot restaurant, be prepared to enjoy yourself. The Hotspot menu features something for everyone, even those with the most discerning of tastes. From some of the best tasting flavor crisp chicken to souvlaki with pita bread, the Hotspot cuisine is sure to please. You'll enjoy the nightly entertainment, the warm, friendly atmosphere, and the unique location. The Hotspot restaurant with just a little bit extra for you. The Hotspot, above the Glencairn Bowling Center, 1620 9th Avenue.
From Pet Food believes you should get more nutritional information and value out of the pet foods you're buying. Compare From to your present brand. No fillers or byproducts, just all natural good nutrition. Buy in the bulk size and save up to 50% on your annual pet food budget. From comes in 7 special mixes. You'll save and your dog will love it. And that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Available at these fine stores.
On this program, we've looked at some of the mineral resources in Saskatchewan and some of the agencies that record and monitor them. Iron is not one of those minerals, but the Interprovincial Pipe and Steel Company, known as IPSCO, produces thousands of feet of steel pipe by recycling scrap. For something a little different on a fine science, we've decided to give you an artistic view of making steel pipe, a condensed version of the operation in Regina, set to music. And that's our program. I'm Holly Preston. Thank you for watching A Fine Science.